All right, today we're diving into a really fascinating business story from the world of real estate. We've got a company that's actually losing users, but at the same time, it's claiming to be winning. How on earth is that possible? Let's unpack the paradox at the heart of Realtor.com.
So at the center of all this is a major contradiction. On one hand, you have some numbers that, frankly, look a little worrying. But on the other hand, you have the company's executives sounding more confident than ever. So what is really going on?
And this is the central question, right? This is the paradox that Realtor.com's parent company, News Corp, brought up in their latest report. It seems totally counterintuitive, but the answer, well, it actually reveals a huge shift in strategy in the constant battle for our attention online.
Okay, so let's start with the not-so-great news. In the last quarter, Realtor.com's average monthly unique users actually fell by 6.5%. You know, in the super competitive online world, a number like that is almost always a massive red flag.
But then you hear this from the CFO of News Corp, who owns Realtor.com. She claims they've actually gained audience share and are closing in on their biggest competitor, Zillow. So how can both of these things be true at the same time? It doesn't seem to add up.
Well, the secret to solving this whole puzzle is to look beyond just how many people visit a site and instead focus on how often they keep coming back. This is the classic battle of users versus engagement.
To really get what's happening, you have to know the difference between unique users and total visits. So think of it like this. Unique users is the number of different people who walk into a coffee shop over a month. Total visits, though, is every single time the door opens. That one person who comes in for their latte every single day, they count as one unique user, but they're responsible for about 30 total visits. Makes sense, right?
And this number right here, this is where Realtor.com's secret weapon is hiding. Back in September, their average user visited the site more than 3.5 times. So what this tells us is that even if they have fewer people in the door, the audience they do have is incredibly loyal and keeps coming back for more.
So, how does that stack up against the competition? Well, when you put that number right next to Zillow, the biggest player in the market, you can see the foundation for their whole argument. Realtor.com's users are on average just a little more engaged, visiting more frequently than Zillow's users.
So the next obvious question is, what are they doing to get people to come back so often? Well, the answer isn't just about showing you houses for sale. It's about turning their website into a real destination.
News Corp CEO Robert Thompson talks about creating a holistic real estate experience. Now, I know that sounds like a bunch of corporate jargon, but the idea behind it is actually pretty simple. They want to be more than just a search bar for houses.
So what does this holistic experience actually look like? Well, it means taking their main product, the property listings, and wrapping it with a bunch of other useful stuff, like original news about the housing market. And then they make it easy to take the next step and connect with an agent. They want to be with you for your entire home buying journey, not just for that one quick search.
And here's the engine that's really driving all that engagement. Because News Corp is a media giant, they've used all their expertise to turn Realtor.com into the biggest publisher of real estate news in the entire country. This content, this is what gives people a reason to visit the site even when they aren't actively looking at a listing that day.
Now, of course, this strategy isn't happening in a vacuum. It's a very specific move in the incredibly fierce, ongoing battle between the big real estate websites for total market domination.
This table really just lays out the whole battlefield. And as you can see, Zillow is an absolute giant in terms of its user numbers and total visits. It's just massive. But then, look down at that last row, visits per user. That's where Realtor.com is planting its flag and claiming victory, showing they have a deeper connection with a smaller, but more loyal audience.
And the CEO is not being shy about it at all. This quote is a direct shot across the bow at the competition. He's framing their engagement numbers not just as a good sign, but as patently superior. They're making a huge bet that this deeper engagement is the most valuable thing to have in the long run.
So, what does this all really mean? Well, it signals a very deliberate choice in strategy. They are prioritizing the quality and engagement of their audience over the raw quantity of people who visit.
So here's the bottom line. Realtor.com is essentially arguing that one user who visits 4 times is more valuable to them than 2 different users who each visit only once. It's a big bet on loyalty, on becoming a habit, which they hope will ultimately turn into better, more serious leads for their real estate agents.
But is the strategy actually paying off? Well, the results are pretty promising.
Their lead volume, which is how they make money, was down a pretty steep 13% last quarter. But in this most recent quarter, that decline slowed all the way down to just 1%. This really suggests their engagement strategy is helping to stabilize the business, even if it isn't causing explosive growth just yet.
And that leaves us with the big question, one that goes way beyond just real estate. It's really about how we measure success online today. In a world where we're all endlessly scrolling, Realtor.com is betting that a smaller, loyal, returning audience is actually more valuable than a huge casual one. It's a really bold strategy, and honestly, only time is going to tell if it works.